Our next guest in the breakout room is part of a husband and wife, award-winning authors, poets, musicians, artists, radio hosts, and bloggers. Also owners of the Brummet Media Group. Her name is Lillian Brummet. Here is Lillian and her husband, Dave. They have written 6 books together, including Rhythm and Rhyme, Trash Talk Book 1 and Book 2. And Lillian has written Towards Understanding, edited by Dave. So you may have seen this face hanging out on the Opinionated podcast, or Dave in his favorite drum room. So let's welcome his talented and enterprising media specialist, Lillian Brummet.
Okay, great. So we're gonna go live now. Well, when I say live, I mean we're gonna actually start the interview now. So, folks, we just want to welcome Lillian Brummet to our podcast in the breakout room on Andy's personal development. And this is our second bite at the cherry, so to speak, because the first time on Melon, we had some challenges. That's the way technology is sometimes, but Lillian has been very forthcoming and she's back here to represent Brummet Industries, or Brummet Media Group rather, with regards to the things that they have done in the past, what was their inspiration. And when I say they, I mean she and Dave, her husband, and the things that they are looking to accomplish going into the future with regards to the Brummet Media Group. So Lillian, what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask you to start off this episode by telling us a bit about yourself.
Okay.
And how you met Dave and how you basically decided to start Brummet Media Group.
Okay. Well, I'm 53, going on 54. And my husband's, I think, 56, going on 57, something like that.
You think?
I think. I mean, I'd have to do the math, and then I got to haul out all my fingers and toes,
That's
right?
Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
I have to guess at my own age sometimes.
Okay.
At this point of the life. Yeah, but we live in our dream location, which is the Kootenay region of BC, Canada.
Right.
My husband was born and raised in the Okanagan region of Canada, where his father was also raised.
Okay.
From, I think about, I'm thinking about 6 or 7 years old and on. So his family has deep roots in that area.
Mhm.
I happened to move to that area when I was about 17 or 18-ish. And I ended up meeting Dave around 1920. We started dating then very seriously. We've been together ever since. So as of this April, we would have been together 33 years.
Yeah.
And yes, I remember that number.
All right, good. Congratulations.
Only because I recently talked about it.
Okay.
But yes, and we, like I say, we live in our dream location, but it took some time getting here. We had to come to the mindset of not living for tomorrow, waiting for those golden years, those golden moments, because we realized we had some life happenings that brought the awareness to us that right now, today, this moment, this breath is the golden moment. Nothing is guaranteed for tomorrow. So we stopped doing that. I mean, of course, we still plan for tomorrow and we still want to grow our business and, you know, bloom and all of that. But we decided, instead of waiting for the retirement years to live where we really wanted to live, we just sold everything. We went, you know, and it's been an incredible journey ever since for my husband and I. We started the business. Really, Dave started the business back in, gosh, he was the very, very early stages of testing out the waters of different products and services, was back in 1992. But we didn't officially start at the business until about 99, when both of us merged our works together under one roof, under one umbrella name. And it's developed since then. You know, it started out with like freelance writing and going on tours with workshops and various activities like that, custom work on custom manufacturing of drums and a variety of other things. And today we're mainly focusing on drum teaching and drum repairs and in the studio downstairs. And then on the other side of the business, we have our books on Amazon. There's 6 books now.
Yeah.
There'll be 3 more coming out this year, 1 more
Right.
next year. We have our 2 blogs, we have our YouTube channel, and a
Yeah.
variety of things that are leading towards our 5-year plan. But we're also living today, right now. So we're making
Right.
that a priority.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so very important. Thanks for sharing. Living in the moment and dealing with the reality of it. Extremely important. So,
Yes.
Lillian, tell us a bit about the Brummet Conscious blog. It says it focuses on inspiring, positive, and proactive topics, offering a fresh outlook on the world. Give us a little more detail about that, please.
Okay, now this is one of my favorite tools of
All
all
right.
time, like
All
one of
right.
my favorite activities. The Brummet's Conscious blog has been going strong daily
Yeah.
since 2002.
Okay.
So I think that's what, 18, 19 years. You can have to do the math for
Yeah.
me. I'm
somewhere
terrible
around
at it.
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So it's been going for a really long time on a daily basis. And we
Right.
offer all kinds of information there because of that. So we have articles and interviews with a variety of people like yourself, podcast hosts. We have interviews with like authors and publishers and agents and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And we offer all kinds of articles and really helpful resources. The
Okay.
main focus, as you say, is to create a positive change in the world through empowering, inspiring, and motivating others. So we're
Right.
showing them how to go about being a more successful entrepreneur and getting their beautiful skills and their beautiful services out there to the world, and helping them reach a wider audience by allowing them to come onto the blog and share their tips and stuff through their articles and what have you, different features that we do. We also are helping the people who are coming behind, like kind
Yeah.
of being a mentor, right?
Yeah.
So people that are interested in being an author or being an entrepreneur or running a blog or a podcast can come on and they can read all these different articles and interviews and learn more about what they're going to be facing and maybe some tips that will help them improve
Yeah.
what they're already
Yeah.
doing, which is
Right.
really important because there's so many people out there that end up getting overwhelmed by the whole process, the amount of work, the intense work that they maybe weren't aware of that's
Yeah.
goes behind
Yeah.
these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then so they end up becoming underwhelmed by the
Okay.
results, right?
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
start thinking like, and they start getting depressed.
Hmm.
They can't. They're usually the honeymoon period's about 6 months to 9 periods where you're all excited and gung ho, and then you start getting a little bit downtrodden, right?
Yeah.
So this helps them keep going, motivates them to keep going, and shows them ways of like overcoming their obstacles and challenges. It's so exciting for me. I absolutely love working that blog.
Yeah, wonderful. I can hear the passion. Thanks for sharing that excitement with us. It really must feel good. So let's go into the writing a bit. You have 6 books, and you just hinted that there may be more on the horizon. What created the passion for writing 6 books? Where did the inspiration come from, Lillian?
No, it started right back in the early days of writing. I had the incredible luck of having my very first article picked up as a column.
Okay.
And it was titled Trash Talk,
Right.
which is talking about trash and recycling and reusing and repurposing and refusing and reconsidering and about 8 other R's. There's a lot of R's before heading to the landfill, right? So we cover all of those R's in that column, and it got picked up internationally. So it was published, Africa and France and various places in the UK and Europe and Canada and the States. So had lots of, and it ran for about 6 or 7 years before it evolved into a book.
Okay.
Now, that series led us to the idea that, hey, like we already kind of had the concept, the idea that we wanted to use writing as a way for us to be proactive and leave a positive legacy.
Right.
But we didn't know exactly what direction that was, where that was going to go, what that meant.
Yeah.
And this was the start of that because of the feedback we were getting from people about they were starting to get really excited about living green, and also the green activities they were already doing, the conscious choices they were already making, because they realized, they were shown the measurable impact of those actions, and which they didn't realize. And so they were like, oh, I'm going to double down now because I'm all excited, right? So it was really good, sensation coming out of that. And we realized how easy it is to make a difference, to create positive change with these little mist droplets out there in the world, creating a ripple. And so that was where we really went. Soon after that, I ended up becoming a staff writer, assignment writer, and a freelance writer almost all at once. And I did that for about 3 years. So I worked for a publication. I was doing the column as well, and I was doing these other positions. So assignment writer is like when a publication calls you, like you're on call, and they say, hey, this is happening. There's a meeting downtown we want you to cover. Can you do it? That's an assignment writer. Okay. Right. So a staff writer is you're on staff and people are just saying, this is what I want you to do, period. And you don't get a choice. You have to write whatever they're telling you, which in some ways sucked. And in other ways really challenged me as a writer to really come up with creative and enjoyable ways of producing that material. And so all of those led up to that, because as an assignment writer, I would get told, hey, there's this organization that's rehabilitating and rejuvenating wolf populations. Can you go do an interview with them? I mean, yeah, then, go check out this family run mushroom grower who's growing things like shiitake and oyster and all these different kinds of mushrooms. And then they are part of like a distribution box type thing where it gets delivered to people's homes. And so I got to interview them and like all kinds of really interesting, people. And so by sharing their stories, I found that it uplifted them. They all of a sudden felt like what they were doing had more value. It had worth. It was recognized, and it boosted them. And just the impact you can have on so many different levels as a writer. And I guess that's really where it stemmed from. I became addicted to that feeling and I searched it out, and it led to where we are now. And when I say I always mean Dave and I, of course.
Of course, definitely. That's understood. And and you were recognized by the Recycling Council of British Columbia. And how good would have that would have felt? I mean, in terms of that kind of impact from the organization that was basically responsible for the process of recycling in BC. That must have felt really good.
Yeah, the entire province of BC, which is huge, right? It's the size of California, Nevada, Idaho,
something like that.
It's huge, right? And it was really cool. It still is. I got this. It came with. It's not upstairs here, otherwise I'd show it to you. But it's a stained glass made out of recycled glass, and it's like a glass award with it etched on there. It says something along the lines of for outstanding work in the media regarding creating positive change for waste management. And I was just blown away by even being nominated for the award in the first place, but to receive the award from them was just like we were just talking how, interviewing someone and how that made them feel like they had more value and more worth. It's the exact same thing that happened to me. I felt so uplifted, and it gave me a lot more faith as in myself as a writer. It was one of those moments among many others that sort of kept me going during even the darkest times, or when I was my inner critic and my inner judge was going and telling me, I wasn't worthy and this book wasn't going to be good enough out in the market or whatever. And, all those horrible voices that just cycle in the head. And I would look back on moments like that, and that would give me the strength to move forward, because it was like, no, I can see, I understand. I'm just, I'm creating my own negative dialogue. I need to shut that off and just move forward, right?
Yes.
And it's helped me multiple times, not just the one moment of receiving it. Yeah.
All right. Great. Wonderful. Sounds really good. And staying in that note, you've also been recognized as community heroes by the Live Smart BC program.
Yes.
That's another thing that a whole lot of people seem to gravitate to in terms of just being involved in community development work. What is that about? Tell us a bit about your involvement there and the recognition you got by the Live Smart BC program.
We got that right at the same time as we got the one from that literacy organization too. And it was all about us having this huge passion for making a difference.
Yeah.
And so, you know, through our proactive work as writers, but also through the other activities that we were doing at the time, I was a radio show host, and I was receiving all of these books all the time, unsolicited, most of them. And so I would end up having like, you know, 700 books a year stacked, you know, there. I read, sorry for my dogs, they're playing in the background. I read every single one of them, of course, and did my best with them. But I also was able to donate them back into like the literacy groups and various fundraisers and leave a book under every tree. I also was participating in saving seeds from extinction forever. I was a part of the Seeds of Diversity organization. Oh, I am part of the Seeds of Diversity organization, but at the time I was, you guys stop it. At the time, I was deeply involved in like grow out programs, and, you know, saving seeds from extinction was a real passion of mine at the time.
Yeah.
And there was a variety of, you know, projects that we were getting involved in the community in that city that were getting like media coverage. And somehow through that, we ended up getting nominated for that particular award and received it. It was fantastic. We got a lot of coverage. We were on radio because of it. They had us in the radio station talking about the getting it and everything. It was really cool.
Nice. Sounds good. Wonderful. So also, Lillian, you attained Editor's Choice Awards for Outstanding Achievement in Poetry on 2 occasions.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that as well.
Okay, well, my first book of poetry concentrates on the healing journey between about the ages of, I'm going to say 18 to maybe 25.
Okay.
And it's called Towards Understanding, and it's a collection of 125 poems that show that journey. So it's delving deep into what the victim of violence, the victim of abuse, the victim of neglect, children who have been on their own too young, children who were forced into being caregivers, and taking on adult jobs when they, you know, they're not built for that yet. And so it fits in that category and shows the healing journey from that, the inner dialogue, the challenges that I was going through. And I through releasing that out, we found that there was a lot of impact on people in various areas, like such as victims of violence and, you know, the Silent Screaming organization and various other organizations who began really embracing the book for that reason and celebrating it, because for some reason, it just really connected with people who worked in the industry or who knew someone that was going through that. And so that's where that started to come about, where they were saying, you know, the healing power of poetry, not just writing it, but releasing it out to the public and sharing your story, which is a very raw and naked and brutally emotional thing to do, especially the first time. But it was so well embraced, and that was one of the awards that we got from that. The second one came from the quality of poetry. So as I was producing more and more poetry, I got awarded for like the standard of poetry, that, you know, oh, this is like gold star kind of thing. So
right.
That was a nice one too.
Great. So tell us a bit about Dave and his passion for drumming, that level of percussion and the stuff that he does in Angle Hill Studios. That's right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Angle Hill Studio, because we live on a hilly area of town.
Oh, okay. All right, that's
and
cool.
It's actually located in the lower half of our home. They have their own entrance, their own bathroom, everything, and their own waiting area and everything. And so what he has there, we've actually, when we bought this house, we had to, the basement wasn't finished. So we've refinished the basement with this in mind. The garage was a carport. We turned it into a garage and we extended it and added a workshop as well, so that he can do his repairs out there, the staining and painting and all kinds of repairs out there. And then he has his teaching studio as well. So it's all in the same sort of area, zone of the house. So what he does is he offers private private workshops. So families, people who have
Mhm.
company coming from out of town, looking for something to do,
Yeah.
groups of friends that are interested in a certain type of music or what have you, or a certain
Okay.
type of, percussion instrument.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they'll come and they'll book, their hour or two and have a workshop down there. He also does individual student lessons on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. He
Mhm.
usually has 2 or 3 students a night, and that's after he works his day job. So he's a busy guy. And he's also part of the band called Tantrum, and they have
Ah.
gigs 2 to 3 times a month.
Uh-huh.
I think this month was only once, but it's usually 2 to 3 times a month.
Yeah.
And so, he's very busy with all these different things in music. But one of his favorite aspects of it is, sharing the joy of music,
Okay.
helping others feel that joy
Mhm.
and get away
Mhm.
from the darkness of their lives, even if it's just
Mhm.
for that moment, that hour, that evening. They get away from that. They're thinking about music, they're celebrating, they're dancing,
Yeah.
they're learning, they're feeling good about themselves, they're achieving things. And he sees that in his students and both the people who are, listening to them as a performer. And he really relishes having that kind of impact, bringing joy into the world. He also has an off-branch service, which is called Drum It Forward Project.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's where he takes all kinds of abused bits and pieces of drums that he gets from other people or from his, drum repair projects or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
parts that he's replaced or something. And then he tries to repair that part. And eventually he has enough bits and parts and pieces, and he goes to places like schools, or
Mhm.
he helps underprivileged students or classes or organizations that teach music. He goes in there and he hauls out their boxes of pieces and parts and goes through their closets, and he builds entire kits and things out of them. There was
Wow.
a high school that he did about 3 years ago, I think in Castle. I could be wrong. I think it was Castle. And he was able to, in their shelves, they had all of these parts for an entire drum kit, but they didn't know it
Yeah.
because it was all separated.
Okay.
And so
Oh.
with his parts and pieces, he was able to make it a beautiful instrument, a playable instrument. And he also put together a pair of timbales and a conga
Yeah.
set
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
had that were broken in pieces. And I think there was
Wow.
something else, I can't remember, that they didn't even know was in their room. They had no
Okay.
idea. And he put these
Wow.
things together, and now they're out in the music room for these kids, youth, to play. And, that really gives them a buzz too.
Yeah.
It's sort of a periodic thing because you have to wait till you have enough material to go and
Mhm.
do a
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And quite often when he's, because of the work he does, he's exposed to underprivileged students. So there's
Right.
a lot of silent stuff that doesn't happen in the media, we don't announce or whatever,
Mhm.
because he's out there helping out these underprivileged families, getting their instruments working and
Okay.
fixed and
Okay.
repaired. So he does that on a volunteer basis.
Yeah, great. What impresses me the most, Lillian, is that both you guys seem to have a way to connect with your communities and people through your fortes and your strengths and the things that you are really competent at doing. You use poetry and the writing to reach out to people, the blog to reach out to people on a real basis. So it's not just material and content going out there, but it's like a connection, building and developing a relationship so that people could resonate with the stuff that you're doing. And then Dave with his music and the drums and the repairs of the kits and stuff, always working with the underprivileged. And it's amazing. It's truly awesome. We need more folks like
Thank
you
you.
in the world today. I want to focus a bit on the publishing of a trilogy celebrating Dave's late father's lifetime collection of poetry, short story, family memoir, and photographic works. Tell us a bit about that. It sounds like something to look forward to.
Well, I'm glad that you said that. Yeah, it absolutely is something to look
Yeah.
forward to.
Yeah.
The book, Dave's late father passed away in 2016, I think it
Right.
was, and we were
Yeah.
caregiving for him for about 10 years.
Mhm.
And during that time, we were able to really encourage him to pursue the writing he was already doing. And
Okay.
he was started submitting more frequently to magazines. He was getting published. He was getting paid for it. He was appearing in open mic, events. He was attending Toastmasters.
Wow.
He was a part of the local writers group. We got him involved with them, a variety of different things that we got. We started started him at, and then he
Yeah.
just took it and he ran with it, you know, and
Right,
he
right.
did some
Yeah.
excellent stuff. And I think like he was always a writer, but when he was in that time period of his life, it was like he doubled down on it. He had a
Yeah,
real
yeah.
passion for it. He really wanted to leave this mark, and he did. And so when he passed, we inherited the rights to those works.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's no obligation, he said, but it would be really nice if you guys end up, you know, publishing it for me. So of
Yes,
course,
yes.
you know, we want to do that.
Right.
Boy, that was a lot of work putting that trilogy together because it wasn't on computer.
Okay.
So I had
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of these
Old
printed,
school.
yeah, printed
Wow.
binders and loose leaf
Yeah.
boxes and file
Yeah.
folders and a few booklets that he had put together for
Yeah.
gifts and
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. So I had to go through all of this and then go back because I'd find something that was he had made a change or an update on. And so like, okay, go back, find it, you know, and type that in. And so it took about 3 months of transcribing
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
this stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
in between
Wow.
my other work. My hands were aching, but it was a real pleasure to do.
Yeah.
And it ended up being enough content for 3 different books. There's Frank's Tales, which is, you know, his stories. And then there's Frank's Wanderings. And that's where we're sharing more of his photography collections.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then his poetry collection as well. There's, I think, about 287 poems, if I remember correctly,
Wow.
in
Yeah.
that book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there, it's a lot in there,
Yes.
and
Yes.
phenomenal writer. So like really, I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot about history too, like the family
Yes.
memoirs that are
Yeah.
included in his
Yeah.
short stories.
Yeah.
Incredible, learning about what it was like to grow up during the Depression, what women went through back, you know, because his mother's
Yeah.
memoirs in there too, like
Right. Right.
Dave's grandmother, that would be. Her memoirs in there too. She was raised in Romania in a little tiny village, right? And in those days, it was
Interesting.
really common for
Yeah.
the youth to be sent off into servitude because
Right.
you're poor,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go help out the family, go get this job. So here she is, 12 years old, you know, shipped off to this family to go help them with their children. And that was normal back then. Later on, she finds out that Dave's grandfather was in need of a mother, a wife, a mother to the children that were left behind because his wife had passed. And so she comes, you know, train and then boat and then train. And then she meets up with the family and then travels to Alberta. And then from there, they move to BC and raise their children there. But incredible stories that she went through during her youth and in the villages and all the different, you know, things that women went through were incredibly difficult back then, you know, really, really difficult. And to hear that like firsthand was pretty darn cool.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. I'm looking at something here and I'm thinking you guys are into so much good stuff. You have been acknowledged for the intensive landscaping work that you have done on your property by the Canadian Wildlife Federation, the Pollinator Partnership, and the North American Butterfly Association, and the National Wildlife Federation. What have you guys done, Lillian, to get all this attention? I mean, I can imagine it must be really unusual, all the landscaping stuff. How did that happen?
Well, you know, I think that having grown this huge passion for being in gardening and having, you know, I ran like a 5-acre garden at a spa. I worked, I ran a market garden. I helped my family farm with their 5 acres and we had a market garden there as well. So I had a lot of experience in my youth and younger years with like witnessing how the impact that gardeners can have. And eventually I became connected to these various organizations because of the work that we were doing. Initially starting on the family farm, but branching out from there. And so I learned slowly how important it was and how easy it was to create these beautiful food forest habitats that you're feeding yourself, but you're also benefiting the planet.
Okay.
benefiting
Okay.
pollinators.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we really started to focus on that. Our very first, we did it with, we were always renters, so all the time we were renting. We were doing it rentals, but you're only there 2 to 3 years at a time, usually at a rental. So how much can you do? Our very first home, we were there for, I think, 6 years, and it was an abused lot that was a rental home. So people were
Okay.
driving on the
Yeah.
lawn. There was no
Yeah.
fence or
Yeah.
anything. And we turned that into a cottage oasis, and it gained certification there. And then we
Okay.
took that knowledge, and when we bought this house, it was also a rental, also a yard that was totally abused. And so we started from scratch here, just first year witnessing what is going on the property. Where's the wet spots? Where's the dry spots? Where are the common traffic areas? What are the most difficult areas to maintain? That might be the place we want to put a tiered bed or something,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So we spent a while examining it. And we also gardened outside of our property. So the boulevard, which we have to maintain, the city makes us maintain, we planted all kinds of trees and shrubs there as well.
Yeah.
So, and we fenced the entire property. Most people only fence a portion of their property. We fenced everything except for the actual driveway going into the garage.
Right.
And so the entire place is being gardened on, including in the back alley where we're going to extend a wildflower area out there along the back alley fence. There's a section, that always gets weeds. So we're like, we don't want to have to deal with that. We're putting some wildflowers there. So, you just slowly over the years, we've been on this property, I think 12 years now. And we've got, I think certification was 6 different places. And we've been in the media and the local magazine, I Love Creston magazine, and a few other places to highlight it in order to encourage other people to do the same thing. It draws a lot of interest, and it's so amazing. Like when we witness people just walking by and being inspired by what they're seeing and the conversations that it stimulates with passerbys and ourselves when we're in the yard. And I mean, there's so many benefits to gardening.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you for sharing, Lillian. What does the future look like for Brummet Media Group in terms of the networking that you plan to do, maybe extension of the blogs? I know you said there are more books coming in, but more so in terms of the broader picture, are there any specific plans that you have for outreach, maybe community development programs or more networking? What does the future look like for Brummet Media Group?
Those are really good questions. This year, I'm focusing a lot on networking with local BC authors. I started a Monday writers meetup group, which is here on Zoom, and it's just for BC authors. So we're trying to network a lot more with locals, which isn't something that we have concentrated on in the past. So it's an interesting journey to really get to know the people who are in the industry right here around me instead of all over the world, because it's always been all over the world, right? So it's interesting. And I find that to them, I'm becoming like a mentor and a guru, which is a neat place to be able to help other people and advise them and that. Also our focus, like where we're going after the trilogy comes out and after the Backyard Garden book comes out next year, is we're heading into more the e-course arena. So we'd like to take some of the books that we've already published and not only release them in more formats than they're already in, but we would also like to convert the garden book and the Purple Snowflake book into an e-course, an e-course. And we're looking at taking Dave's percussion accessories that he's developed and designed, created, invented, and starting an e-commerce store. And so in order to do all of that over the last few years, last couple of years, I've taken probably about 7 courses in like how to go about e-commerce and how to develop this arena and what do I need to do now in order to lead up to that, and so we're taking those steps slowly because we still have so much at our schedule. We take in, well, we can start incorporating this and then we can start incorporating that, but the main goal is going to be in that direction. Absolutely.
Wow, wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Lillian. In terms of mentorship, Are you doing any specific mentorship with regards to young people in your area? Any program that you're involved in terms of media, writing, poetry, networking and stuff?
No, I haven't done anything like that. The only time I've ever done anything like that, like I'm super shy, so I'm really good in my office. I'm just crap when it comes to being around
All
people.
right.
I get
Okay.
really, I get boxy into myself.
Oh
My
boy.
husband is the one who goes into around people. So
All
anything that's
right.
public, like book signings, or he has to
Uh-huh.
deal with managers of a store or do a workshop or
Uh-huh.
anything like that, he's the face that they see. He's very
Okay.
comfortable and he's very charming, and he can handle groups of people and he's
Yeah.
used to being on stage. I'm terrified of that. Like any more than two people, that's just totally uncomfortable for me.
Oh, okay.
So no, that I haven't done that. The one
Mm-hmm.
time I participated in an event with Dave, which was,
Yeah.
I felt a complete disaster. I started having panic attack. I get panic attacks. I
Whoa.
started having panic attacks,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it was a classroom, like a high school classroom, which is silly. Why
Mm-hmm.
am I getting so worried
Yes,
about it, right? But
yes,
I got
yes.
so upset and I started having panic attacks, and he had to take over because we had this thing. Okay, you're
Mm.
going to say this, I'm going to say that. So
Okay.
I'm over there in the corner trying to breathe, and Dave's like,
Wow.
"Yeah,
Wow.
it didn't."
Oh
I
my.
was like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do those anymore."
Oh boy. Oh my. Wow. So you got this challenge with panic attacks. Wow.
Yeah, it's actually, the name of it is called an anxiety disorder.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
just
yeah,
what it's
yeah.
called. But one of the effects of that is getting a panic attack. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Challenging. Okay. Lillian, in terms of an opportunity that let's just imagine that you have an opportunity to say something to the world. We have probably about 8 billion people on the planet, and not everybody is getting a fair share of what we would call the human rights, so to speak. There are so many discrepancies going on in the world. I mean, we don't need to go into all the areas, but we know that they exist. If there's something that you could say that would probably set things right and have minds focus on um, a sort of reality situation where every individual actually gets the opportunity to enjoy their right, their freedom as a human being, as a person, as someone who belongs on planet Earth, what would you say to them?
I created a video on our Brummet Media YouTube channel that's
Right.
very much along this lines. And I'm
Okay.
really glad that you brought this up. It's one of our most popular videos
Right.
on that channel, and it's about our perception. So
Mm.
I really feel that as an individual, as
Mm-hmm.
an individual, have a very narrow view of
Yeah.
any moment of every breath. I have a
Yeah.
very narrow view, and that
Okay.
narrow view is tainted by the
Yeah.
thoughts that are going on in my head, by
Yeah.
the mood that I have, right? And all these other different things are impacting how I'm perceiving that little tiny fraction of a view that I have.
Right.
And I'm not seeing the whole picture. And
Mm-hmm.
so in my head, I'm telling myself stories. We all do this
Yeah.
every single
Yeah.
day. We're filling
Yeah.
in the blanks. We're telling our own stories about what this means, what this represents. And
Yes.
yet most of those stories are false.
Hmm.
And so I think we have to
Yeah.
slow down
Mm-hmm.
and try to have a little bit more compassion, a little bit of more awareness that we don't know what their life is like. We don't know what
Yeah.
their struggles are, the
Yeah.
garbage truck that they're pulling behind them, the weight that
Uh-huh.
they have on their shoulders, the
Yeah.
abuse that they went through that they haven't recovered from,
Wow.
the financial stress that's on their shoulders. And then they turn around and they snap at someone and we just automatically judge them. Oh, what a jerk, But
Yeah.
then we don't know where they're coming from,
All
what
right.
kind of pressures they're having, what the weight. And so have a little more compassion for people. Try not
Yeah.
to be so judgmental, because think about yourself. Like we beat up on ourselves all the time, right? We're our own worst judge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the harder we are on ourselves, that also reflects on how we are with other people. So be kind to yourself. You find you're going to start being kinder to other people as well. I think that's really what we need to do. Slow down,
Yeah.
take some time, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
ask some questions before you start making judgments.
Right.
Another thing that has always sort of like bothered me
Mm-hmm.
is the tendency for humans to point fingers and make, their fault. That person should take responsibility. Why aren't they doing something,
Oh, okay.
instead
Yeah,
of
I get it.
rolling
I
up
get
our
it. Yeah,
sleeves,
yeah.
right? And saying, okay, what can I do right
Right.
now, today? What can
Yes.
I do to
Yeah.
make this?
Yeah.
Never mind what everybody else is doing. That's not my business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Me right here now. What can I
Yeah.
do? And that's where we need to start to focus. I mean, just the other day, I shared this post on Facebook where this group of people are cleaning up this creek that's going through a city, and this creek is pretty deep ditch, and all of this garbage keeps flowing inside of this creek. And a group of people got tired of it, so they went down there starting to clean it up, and they put these barriers to keep it from flowing to the ocean and all of this. They're being very proactive about it. And one of the comments I got on there was someone said, oh, look at all the waste and how horrible and awful and blah, blah, blah. And it's too bad these people have to do that. And I responded like, well, yes, but, let's take a step back. It's not like people are taking a piece of garbage and throwing it into that creek. What happens is it ends up litter on our streets, comes out of our cars, comes out of uncovered bins, careless garbage collectors, right? All of this gets cluttered around, lands on the street, and from there it's carried by the wind and water runoff, where it gathers into these piles and creates these homes for mosquitoes and pathogens and all this other stuff. And eventually it makes its way into the creeks, the streams, the waterways, the rivers, then the oceans. So it's really a lot of upstream. It's not like somebody walking by and saying, I'm throwing my garbage in there. That's not exactly what's happening. And so we need to acknowledge that, but we also need to acknowledge the fact that every time we've walked by a piece of garbage on that street, have we taken responsibility for it not going into that water stream? And then the other side of that as well is, isn't it great that these people are doing this and making an incredible difference? And they're taking so much waste out of there and protecting the creek. And they're showing, like, months later, there's fish back in that creek. I mean, what a rewarding feeling. Frogs singing that you haven't heard their voices in years, birds coming back because they did that work. And isn't that great? And so I think change our perception. Instead of being so negative, try to see things from maybe a different angle and celebrate the goodness.
Wow, that's powerful stuff, Lillian. That is really amazing. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
That's a refreshing and uplifting outlook on things, and we need to have that kind of attitude, that kind of, let me take on the responsibility. If I see something that needs to be done, don't wait on somebody else to do it. If I can do something about it myself, hey, just do it, and things would get better eventually. But somehow it just doesn't work out that way. So we are coming to the end of our show, but I want to ask Lillian an important question, and I think that it would resonate with a lot of people. There are a lot of young people, Lillian, that are looking to go into business, and they need advice, they need mentoring, they need someone to help them. What are the steps that we should take in terms of getting into business? And how should we profile ourselves? How could we market ourselves, promote ourselves by using social media and all the other available outlets out there? How can we put it together? How can we do it?
Well, that's a huge question, but I'm going to start with saying that it's really important to make sure that your business and all your business activities align with your personal beliefs, whatever that might be. For me, a lot of it has to do with the environment, right? So all of my business contacts, do they align with my business? Who I'm buying from? Who are my suppliers? Who am I outsourcing to? Do they align with my business? Are they doing great things in the world? Another thing that you want to do is, when it comes to your social networking and your social media sites, is to make sure that all of those, to use the same word, are aligned so that when you go from one place to another, the logo is always the same. The colors are all the same. The theme is the same. Your language is the same. And so people can say, yep, that's Lillian when they go there. Oh yeah, that's Lillian. I recognize her. Just instant recognition. You want that brand recognition instantly. The next thing that I would say is the most effective use of my time when it comes to marketing and promoting has always been with the focus of networking and collaborating. Rather than coming at it from the sense of I'm selling myself.
Yeah.
or I
Yeah.
want you to do something for me.
Mm.
Everyone that I come in contact with, I have a mindset of networking and collaborating. And the third thing I would do is when you start feeling emotional, and we all do about our business,
Mhm.
getting stressed or upset about anything at all,
Yeah.
step back, take a moment
Uh-huh.
so that you're not coming at it from an emotional point of view. Try to calm that down and put on your solution mindset.
Okay.
How
Okay.
can I manage the situation? Does it
Mhm.
mean I have to go this way? Does it mean I have to go this way? You
Yeah.
know, what do I need to do to make this situation work or get around this situation or deal with
Right.
this,
Right.
rather than getting all upset about
Mm.
something that somebody else did or didn't work out or whatever. So try to think of things with a solution mindset, and you're going to have a lot more success in your life.
Yeah. Wonderful. It's a great note to end this episode on. That is amazing advice. Thank you so much for sharing, Lillian.
You're
And I
welcome.
know that is going to make a difference to someone who's going to hear this program later on. So we have been in the company of Lillian Brummet. She is part owner of the Brummet Media Group together with her husband, Dave, the man who deals with the drums and the percussions and stuff. An amazing couple, and they've been doing so many wonderful things through the media, poems, writing, artwork, even in the communities where they live in BC. So it's a wonderful experience. And at this time, Lillian, we just want to give you a minute to tell the people how they can get in touch with you. If they need to get your books, where they can get the books, they need your services, your advice, they want to collaborate with you, they want to network with you, or they need you to speak, Dave to show up at some sort of network, workshop, whatever it is, just sell yourself now.
Oh, thank you so much, Andy. I appreciate that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, you go
Yeah,
ahead.
all of our books are available on Amazon, and the ones that are coming out this summer as well will also be available there. So any country, anywhere, can go to their local Amazon and just look up Lillian and Dave Brummet, Brummet, and you'll find a list of all of our books from there. You'll also see our author central page. My name should be hyperlinked, and if you click on that, it'll take you to more information about our work as writers from that point forward. I would also encourage people to go to consciousdiscussions.blogspot.com. That's the address for our main blog, Brummet's Conscious Blog. And when they go there, they're going to see right at the top, there's several pages available, not just where I have all the recent posts and stuff like that on the main page, but right along the top, there's several pages. And one of those is the About page. There's another that is called Work With Us. So those are the two that I would check out if you're interested in learning how to work with us or connect with us, submit to the blog, or learn about any of the various things that we do. It'll all be available on those two pages for sure. Also on the right-hand side of that blog, you'll see a bunch of links to find us online too.
Yeah, great. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. So now they know how to make contact with you and Dave in the Brummet Media Group. So we have been in the presence of Lillian Brummet of the Brummet Media Group, and she's been sharing some wonderful and valuable information about networking, collaboration, poetry, arts, and the wonderful work that they're doing in the communities in BC. So we want to remind you that your story matters and that your story makes a difference. And that, as Lillian would have said before, if you see something needs fixing, roll up your sleeves if you have to and get it done. Because I always say we need to be the change that we desire to see in the world. As change agents, it starts with us. So this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development in the breakout room with Lillian Brummet. And we want to say to you, continue to work towards health, happiness, and prosperity. Until next time, we are saying so long, shalom, Godspeed, namaste. Bye for now.